Governor Larry Hogan said Joe Biden ran as a centrist, saying he's gonna bring the country together. I think that's why he won. But the out-of-control wokeism and far-left progressive caucus that almost screwed up the infrastructure bill, I think is gonna hurt them.
The midterms coming up are quite different. Trump is already very involved. He's planning on hitting the campaign trail. Are you worried that that will hurt Republicans?
Well, I'm concerned about it. It's obviously, an issue to contend with, and if the former president interferes with primaries and tries to help nominate folks that are unelectable in a general election and say swing districts and purple states, that's going to hurt. But look, this has been a constant problem. Like, I was reelected. I ran 44 points ahead of President Trump in Maryland in 2018, in between him losing, by 30 points in 2016 and 20. So it is possible. The Democrats have been trying to make it all about Trump, and I think that's a mistake. I also think the Democrats, Joe Biden ran as a centrist, saying he was going to bring the country together. I think that's why he won. But he's, the kind of out-of-control wokeism and far-left progressive caucus that almost screwed up the infrastructure bill, I think is going to.
Senator Chris Coons says he shares the Congressional Progressive Caucus confidence that 50 senators, including Joe Manchin, will vote for the spending plan.
So we're going to get to the climate summit in a moment, but first, you heard the president saying Senator Joe Manchin, in the president's words, will be there on his economic plan. But how do you get there? Because Manchin is raising serious issues with Medicare expansion. He's waiting for the Congressional Budget Office score, as they call it. It doesn't sound like he's backing this plan anytime soon.
Well, Wolf, the good news from this week was that the Congressional Progressive Caucus in the House has decided to move forward, both with the infrastructure bill and with the Build Back Better bill, saying that they trust President Biden will be able to deliver 50 votes here in the Senate, and I share that confidence. I have heard, as have all of us, from Senator Manchin, that he wants to see final text. He wants to know the details of the deal, but that's not unusual, Wolf, for a senator to say, before I'm finally going to vote for something where I agree with the overall plan, I need to see the final details. There was, I think, a breakthrough agreement this afternoon on adding a prescription drug negotiation provision, a provision that would lower out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs for American seniors, which I frankly think, in terms of getting 50 votes in the Senate, strengthens the bill moving forward.
Frustration, though, is clearly mounting over Senator Manchin's what his critics are calling stalling. One Democratic senator told CNN, and I'm quoting now, "There's a ton of loose ends and no clear way out." Is the feeling that one senator, Senator Manchin specifically, is dictating President Biden's success or failure on this critically important issue?
Well, if we've got 50 senators, any one of us, because we only have a 50-vote majority, could throw up a red flag and disagree and slow the progress of the Build Back Better bill. It is not an infinite number of concerns. It's a very defined and narrow number of concerns that Senator Manchin has raised in recent days, and the White House is working through resolving all of them with him. And I am optimistic that we will get there. When the House takes up and passes this bill, there will be a week that it goes through a review, a scrub here in the Senate to make sure that it follows with this arcane process called reconciliation that we're following, and then we'll be ready to vote for it. Once President Biden returns and has a chance to be directly engaged constructively, as he has been, I'm confident that we will, in the end, get 50 Democrats to vote for this bill.
Yeah, this is going to be his major priority once he lands outside of Washington at Joint Base Andrews. Turning to the COP26 climate summit here in Scotland, President Biden blasted China and Russia, for that matter, for not engaging, not sending their leaders here, calling it a big mistake. How does he put pressure on some of the world's biggest polluters to act? And I know you'll be leading a congressional delegation to Glasgow coming up.
That's right, Wolf. President Biden had very strong words for some of the world's largest polluters, China and Russia, but also engaged in positive bilateral meetings with heads of state from other countries that are also significant contributors, not at the scale of China. And I think he made two big announcements today. A number of leaders of COP26 made two big announcements today about a global methane pledge Methane is a far more significant polluter, contributor to global warming than carbon dioxide. It stays in the atmosphere a shorter period of time, but it's a much heavier molecule in terms of its impact. And the United States is making a significant commitment and catalyzing a global commitment to combat methane emissions. There's also a new commitment to end deforestation. I chair the subcommittee that funds all of our foreign assistance, as you know, Wolf, and I'm committed to working closely with President Biden to make sure that we meet the bold commitments that he's made at COP26 for climate finance, particularly to help developing countries that want to work with us to reduce their emissions.
Before I let you go, Senator, you heard President Biden say he thinks Democrats are going to win the Virginia governor's race. What will it say, though, if he's wrong?
Well, look, there's a lot of elections across the country tonight. There's governors who are up for election in both Virginia and New Jersey. I'll be looking at the exit polls for lessons that we might learn going forward. But the 2024 election's a long way off. The 22 election is a year off. I don't think we should read too much into these polls. Youngkin and McAuliffe are both running hard right up to the end. It's going to be a close election. And what I think it will mean is that there's a lot of folks around the country who are looking for a path forward out of this pandemic. I like Terry McAuliffe's chances as the former governor who had a strong record when he was governor of Virginia, and I'll be looking forward to seeing the results on CNN later tonight.
So Representative Dan Crenshaw explained why he voted against the infrastructure bill. This infrastructure bill is bad policy, mostly because it's too expensive. It's also...
So why did I vote against the infrastructure bill? A lot of people were mad because 13 Republicans voted for it, gave Pelosi and Biden a win in their eyes, and look, that there is some truth to that. Now, I wouldn't vote against something just because it makes Democrats look good. I vote against things because they're bad policy. And I think this infrastructure bill is bad policy, mostly because it's too expensive. Now, keep in mind, this is not the Build Back Better plan, the human infrastructure plan, if you will. Separate bill, but one of the reasons we voted against this is because it's obviously tied together to the reconciliation bill. That's really frustrating for Republicans. But look, why is it bad policy? Again, too expensive, but also it doesn't make it easier to build infrastructure. If you're going to allocate $1 trillion extra dollars to infrastructure, make it easier to build infrastructure. Shouldn't take 7 years to permit a highway project, for instance. Now, let me give you a quick local example. In Houston, we have a fully funded, ready-to-go plan to widen I-45, widen the highway. I thought that's what we all wanted, right? Rebuild our roads, rebuild our bridges. Guess who's stopping it? Guess who's getting in the way, and potentially getting in the way so badly that we're going to lose that money and that project's just going to go away. And you're just going to have more traffic on I-45 in Houston. Guess who's getting in the way? Our local Democrat county judge and our federal representatives as well from the Houston delegation and the Department of Transportation under Pete Buttigieg. So this is a real problem, guys. If you're going to allocate more money to infrastructure, make it easy to build infrastructure.